Paul Levesque, Triple H, this whole thing, this happened a couple weeks ago after WWE Bad Blood. And man, when I start thinking about WWE Bad Blood and thinking about how it was in the town where I live, I'm 30 minutes from the building. And the thought that I would ever show up to that thing, well, I wouldn't show up for obvious reasons, but they entered this place full of black excellence, black culture, just like a haven, a creative metropolis for black folks in this country. Y'all heard the Kendrick Lamar verse. You run to Atlanta when you need a check balance. Like, what I saw from Paul Levesque, and by extension of WWE, was another part of that verse. You are not colleagues, you are colonizers. And I stood on that business and went right to Twitter, along with other smart people like Lyrics Winton, Suit Williams, Jeremy Donovan, Phil Lindsay, Righteous Reg. A lot of people in this, this black wrestling creator game, I'd say. We talked about this. We talked about it before the show. We talked about it leading up with the lineups. We've been looking. It's not hard to tell. I don't normally watch WWE, so I don't watch the week to week television. People try to throw NXT at you. I'm like, come on, man. Not the wrestling school. That's what you bringing to me. Come on, man. We are talking about the men's singles division. The division that drives everything forward. The ones that wrestling companies are built around. Like, I saw so much pandering in this. And when you talk about pandering, what is pandering? I'm going to look that up. I want the dictionary definition of the word pandering. Pandering. To gratify or indulge an immoral or distasteful desire, need, or habit, or with a person with such a desire. What is pandering behavior? To pander, to provide gratifications for others' desires. So, when I saw pandering, what does pandering look like in this case? Pandering is keeping your African-American wrestlers unbooked, which has to do with the bucket system and on top of many other things with the 5-match stuff. You add Bianca, Jade, Naomi in as hosts. You throw dopey tag team titles on them to keep them out of the singles division because, one, you have to keep a handcuff anchor on Jade Cargill, and you have to move Bianca Belair out the way to do it. I talked on Twitter about the Bianca Belair conversation that nobody wants to have. Why don't we bust it open real quick? Bianca Belair is quite literally one of the 3 to 5 best stadium wrestlers in WWE. She went from, main eventing a WrestleMania, stick with me, winning that women's title, holding it for, a year, and, being this top star, largely promoted like as a John Cena-like figure for women. And, you look at her, incredible power, incredible look, incredible work, and going through and being that person, the first to really nudge past the four horsewomen, to go face to face with Becky Lynch, with Bayley, with Mercedes. And she was the one going over in a lot of these cases. Her contemporary is Rhea Ripley, kind of, right? And you look at the way Vince McMahon pushed her which is incredible, by the way, that out of Vince McMahon and Paul Levesque, Vince McMahon was the one to see the value in Bianca Belair, whatever value, whatever twisted way he may have seen it. It was seen. The things that Cody Rhodes is doing and getting credit for, of having the blackest entrance ever, Jeff Johnson. Bianca Belair did that 2 years ago at WrestleMania with Texas Southern in a way bigger, more grand fashion. I saw so many awful tweets of this being the blackest show ever, with no black wrestlers wrestling. Think about that. What would make you throw your behind in the air and twerk it up for WWE like this? What would make you do it? Is it access? Is it Twitter clout? When you look at your black skin and be like, yeah, that really made me feel good and represented. Are you serious? Then we get to Triple H. Never mind them bringing in Lil Baby, Metro, Yachty, Killer Mike, people as far as I can see, like rappers everywhere, just more rappers than wrestlers, cutting checks. And these are not appearances that are just off the love. This isn't them coming in like how Jim Jones came into AEW and was like, I'm gonna do this off the love because I fucks with Swerve and I worked out with him in the gym and I'm coming in for the free, essentially. And Jim's coming in for the look. And then it's crossing over with what Jim got going on. This is not that. What's happening in WWE is what's happened since the beginning of time, especially in the hip-hop industry. I don't know if those of you, know what a walkthrough is. Rest in peace, Rich Homie Quan. He had a song called Walkthrough. I be feeling like the man when I walk through. I ain't hearing what you're saying when I walk through. And the whole thing was a concept of rappers showing up places and getting a walkthrough fee. That's what this was. Lil Baby get the walkthrough fee. Yachty gets the walkthrough fee. Metro gets the walkthrough fee. Future gets the song placement there that they got to pay the sync licensing for. And what happens there is like, oh, you're willing to pay for the cultural exchange. You'll pay for it somehow. But it's like, what about paying the people that are going to be there every day and spotlighting them so you don't have to do such things like that? It would be easy to do that, right? Oh, unless, you had this arbitrary 5-match thing. Or, hey, if you just don't want to book black guys on pay-per-view, and it's not like I'm just sitting here just counting the Negroes. It's just like, all right, when's the last time this happened? If you ask one question, they can just trip them up. And with Paul Levesque, he hates getting just one question. We saw him at the Royal Rumble. We saw how he reacted to that. He didn't read the lawsuit. We saw how he reacted to the French kid over when he was asked about, I believe, Drew Gulak. One single question can ruin this guy. And the question this time was asked about the lack of representation of black male wrestlers. So when he asked how he makes sure there's representation, but also everyone gets the opportunity they deserve, this was his response. He said, I don't see the difference in anybody. I don't see the color. I don't see the nationality. I don't see any of it. I just see talent. I don't see the difference between men and women. I see talent. We tell stories with those talent, how they can handle those stories and how they can represent those stories and how we can bring those stories forward. I don't keep track of any of that. I do what's relevant and what's best. The best in storytelling and what's being delivered the best, and then that's what goes. No different than the men and women who main events. Whatever the biggest stories are, that's where we go. let's say I take him at face value. The quote is even worse if we don't think about it. If it's like, oh yeah, Triple H, he believes the best people are, on these shows. So they haven't made any mistakes over the past year. This is exactly how they intended it to be presented. Baffling that he would say, I don't see color in 2024. There are a million ways he could have answered that. He could have talked about what he is doing with, black wrestlers. He could talk about valuing black wrestlers. But what he did is gave an answer that a lot of dummies will line up in comment sections. And when this gets clipped, I'm sure someone inevitably will be in the comment section to say this very thing. Like, well, that's fairness, right? Like, you just want something because you're black. And it's like, no. Like, that's not that's not it. Like, what is happening is something is being pointed out that it's a lack of. And he's telling us that not only is he not making that mistake, he's running everything above board on the up and up. Like, we can go into Triple H's history. You guys know, the blackface. You guys know the Nazi symbolism. You guys know how Triple H gets down, the Bumblebee stuff. Like, you can hold up, like, if I want to, like, pull a book out and rip a page out and write all on it and hold it up here, I could fill it with the racial, the weird racial things with Paul Levesque. But I hear this and I'm just shocked that A, people want to defend this, and B, he thinks this is like something he can just say that is just going to slide and no one's going to talk about it. And I don't believe I face the level of abuse on Twitter than anything more than this, calling this out. Not tweeting about politics, not tweeting about important issues or anything. I'm out here getting called the ER for simply saying things like, well, this is sound the alarm. All black people kind of almost know what this means. Almost all black people know what this means. And I threw that almost in there, and man, did they just come flying from around the corner. Suckers and bums like Julian Weeks, the used car salesman with the weird hairline, dancing and shucking for Triple H at every chance he gets. It's weird. Like, it's very weird the way that people have, put their backsides in the air for Paul Levesque. Because he makes the wrestling for the wrestling company that you love. This isn't about who I'm a fan of. These are his words. People are more upset at me for holding up the mirror than they are for Paul Levesque for saying them. What does that say about you? Like, it is like, all right, man, like, we know what it is. You don't have to lie. And maybe I should give Paul Levesque credit. Maybe he was giving us a rare moment of honesty in the professional wrestling business. Maybe this was a window into his heart, into his soul, into how he looks at someone like Bianca Belair and then decides, that skill set, got no use for that. I can have her carry around Jade and have 2-minute matches because we took Jade from AEW and we really don't have a plan for her. And we're going to try to fast track her, but we don't really care about her either. We just want to, hold her up as an example of the failures of AEW. You look at Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, see him working hard for years and years. And man, I don't see any difference between them and Karrion Kross. It's all the same, except Karrion Kross just keeps getting opportunities. Getting the girl, another manager, and a tag team in his unit. We can see where the resources go and where they do not go. And by telling us he sees no difference, either he is stupid or he's something else. I'll let you tell it. Like, the thing is, like, Cody Rhodes, the guy that main evented the show, and Cody's got his own issues and stuff we talked about on this show extensively. He gave the blueprint for this very question 5 years ago when he was in AEW. Mark Henry asked him, of all people, about diversity within AEW. And then he gave the example. He brought it up himself. He said he once told his wife, Brandy, he doesn't see color. And Brandy corrected him and said, hey, if you don't see color, you don't see my experience. So when Triple H says he doesn't see color, he doesn't see why Kofi Mania resonated with so many people. He doesn't see why Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks at WrestleMania, I believe 37, was so important to people. And if you can't see what means things to people, how good of a booker are you? If you can't understand the specialness of that, and this question also doubles back to those various lames and grifters who I'm sure were very happy at something like Kofi Mania. We're very happy to see the Hurt Business come to prominence, who no longer are in the promotion. If those things meant something to you, this can't not mean something to you. It's that simple. It's really interesting, man. And, Triple H almost is not the exact person I want to hear from on this. We'll take him because he gets so defensive about these things. He opens up the window a little bit. But I want to talk to other people on the board. I want to know what Nick Khan has something to say about this. I want to know what Dwayne Johnson has to say about this. And Dwayne came out at the end, The Rock, the final boss, and all this at the end of the show, did his stare down and went to the back. He didn't have to answer any of those questions. And, Nick Khan's a smooth character. I don't think he would make that mistake in public. The Rock has been on a lot of different platforms, such as like the Pivot, and, The Rock kind of has a lot of like panache, so to say. It would be interesting just to see what they'd say, though. Triple H is just like, he's somebody that's been locked in wrestling for the last 30 years. Like, so he is kind of who he is too. So I heard that stuff and I wasn't surprised. I wasn't disappointed. I know exactly how Paul Levesque operates. I've known people like Paul Levesque my entire life. And I think if you're a wrestler in WWE, a black wrestler in WWE, it's almost like it's not new for them either. I'm sure they've all known a Paul Levesque where it's like, well, I kind of really, I know what this person thinks of me, but I'm gonna just try to hold my head and do my best. And unfortunately, like, doing your best in your unique way that you offer, he doesn't see any difference. Why? Why do I know that? Because he told us that himself.